Hello, welcome back to Mindfall Theory. The information you trust most may already be shaped to guide your decision, not by altering facts, not by hiding data, but by adjusting the frame around it. And the unsettling part? You rarely notice when it happens. Two statements: 90% success rate, 10% failure rate. Logically identical, mathematically equal, but emotionally completely different. One feels reassuring, the other feels risky. Nothing changed except emphasis. This is the framing effect, a cognitive bias where identical information leads to different decisions depending only on presentation. Not what is said, but what is highlighted and what is quietly pushed into the background. Imagine a hospital presenting a medical procedure. They say, "This surgery has a 90% survival rate." Relief spreads. Confidence builds. Now imagine they say, "This surgery has a 10% mortality rate." Silence deepens. Your mind tightens. The probability is unchanged, but your internal response shifts. And your internal response guides your choice. The human brain does not process information like a spreadsheet. It processes it like a threat detection system. Before logic finishes calculating, emotion has already reacted. Positive framing signals safety. Negative framing signals caution. Your nervous system activates before your reasoning catches up. You believe you are evaluating data, but often you are reacting to tone. Another layer makes this stronger: emotional priming. The first emotional signal becomes a filter. If the introduction feels optimistic, the rest of the information feels manageable. If the introduction feels alarming, the same details feel dangerous. The frame becomes a lens, and once a lens is in place, your brain unconsciously defends it. You search for consistency with the initial tone. Notice how headlines operate. Crime dropped by 20%, or crime remains at 80% of previous levels. Same numbers, different emotional direction. In finance, high growth opportunity, or high exposure to volatility. In performance reviews, you met 90% of expectations, or you fell short by 10%. Each version guides perception without changing facts. Framing becomes more powerful under uncertainty. When you lack expertise, when stakes feel high, when information feels complex, your brain simplifies. It relies on emotional cues to reduce cognitive load. Presentation becomes shortcut. Tone becomes signal, and subtle signals shape decision pathways. Here is the quiet danger. Framing doesn't look like influence. It looks like neutral information. But information is never neutral. Every sentence selects what to spotlight, and whatever receives the spotlight appears larger than it is. Whatever remains in shadow feels smaller than it is. Attention directs interpretation. Interpretation directs judgment. The framing effect does not distort reality. It distorts your attention within reality, and attention determines meaning. The next time you hear a statistic, pause, reverse it, shift the emphasis. Ask yourself, what feels different now? Notice how your body responds before your mind explains. That reaction reveals the frame. Whoever controls emphasis quietly influences perception, and whoever influences perception influences choice, without touching the facts. Once you recognize the frame, you start separating information from presentation, and that separation restores clarity.